Hey there, Stampers. This is Sherry Roth with StampTreasures.com, and I'm excited to be here today to share with you the second video in a three-part series that I'm filming on different ways to use your Stamparatus. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details about the Stamparatus because I filmed a previous video where I went into some details, and I'll link that in the details in the description below for this video, so you can check that out. But in a nutshell, the Stamparatus is a stamp positioning tool that was made by Stampin' Up, and that is available through Stampin' Up. And if you're watching this before June 1st of 2018, it is not available right now. It will be available beginning June 1st in the annual catalog that is about to be released. Some of us were lucky enough to get it on a reservation period earlier on in 2018 or late 2017. So several of us do have it, or many of us have it, but they weren't sure how popular it was going to be, so then they weren't going to release it again until the annual catalog came out. Okay, so it is a fabulous tool, and I'm sure I will convince you that you need it after this. You'll see why. Okay, so this is the cute card that we're making, and again, I am filming this video in May of 2018, or sorry, the end of April 2018, and this stamp set, this no bones about it stamp set, adorable little two-step dinosaur stamp set, is being retired, so it will only be available until the end of May, unless it sells out earlier than that. Okay, so if you're watching it after that, unfortunately it's no longer available, but I'm sure there's something else out there that's really cute. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So there's a couple different things that I'm going to show you on this card and different ways that we're going to use the Stamparatus on this card. First of all, we are going to stamp our dinosaur using it. So I've got a little piece of very vanilla here, and I'm going to choose the T-Rex, and I'm going to do the solid image T-Rex first. Actually, you know what? That's how I did my sample, and that's when I did my class for this. That's how I explained it as well, was using the solid image. But I'm going to try the skeleton first and see how it goes. Okay, so I'm lining up my cardstock right in the corner. And you'll also notice that if you've seen previous videos with the Stamparatus, you know that this black mat, you need that when you use photopolymer stamps. Now, I have found if you want to use the corner, so if you want to line up your cardstock in the corner, it helps if you have an extra little shim, and our silicone mat is perfect for that. So you'll see how nicely it will work having just that extra little bit of height in that corner. Okay, so I'm taking my chocolate chip ink pad, and I've inked up the skeleton, and then I'm just gonna apply some pressure, and I'm gonna really apply pressure at that seam there right next to the hinges, and then peel it up so you can see how it works perfectly, just having that extra little shim. So now we're going to clean this. I'll put this away, and then I'm going to grab the solid image that goes over top. And let's hope this works, because I almost always do the solid image first and then add the details afterwards. But we will see how this goes. I'm almost thinking it might be easier because we stamped the skeleton in the darker color, so you can see through a little bit better. That looks much easier. That was much easier to see than the way I did it before. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my crumb cake ink. Let's just peel that back, and that moved just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so now I will ink it up nicely with my crumb cake. Pretty sure I got ink on the hinges there and around the edges. And it's fine if you don't clean it off. It's fine if you go to stamp it. You're not going to get the ink around the edges like you would if it was on a clear block. However, I find that I get it on my fingers and then I get it on my cardstock. So I always like to clean it up before I stamp. And look at that, it's perfect. So you can see that the Stamparatus is very, very helpful for two-step stamping. Okay, now if I was doing multiples of these, what I would have done was I would have kept my skull, or my skeleton on here, stamped it, and then rotated my mat around and put the solid image up here. And so then I could just keep rotating my pads around and stamp multiples. Okay, so that's what's great for it. I knew I was just going to stamp one for the video, so I didn't necessarily need to do that, but that is another great feature for this, for the Stamparatus. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside because I'm going to do something with it in a minute. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I created this ombre look. Okay, so I'm going to choose my greeting, have a dino-rific birthday, and I've got a piece of vanilla cardstock that I've already sponged that measures, I believe it was 2 1/4 by 5 1/2. Yes, 2 1/4 by 5 1/2. Okay, so I'm lining it right up in the corner there, and I'm going to position this. Now this technique, it's called the hinge step. This technique works best if you're greeting or whatever it is. It could be an image as well, if it's 1 inch or less. Or if it's larger, you can do it if it's less than 2 inches, and then you can move your thing down 2 spots rather than just 1. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm centering it from side to side, and I'm centering it between here and here. Okay, so I'm going to close that. And let's put this down here. Okay, and I'm going to grab my old olive ink. And what I like to do, especially with words, I like to use my imaging sheet. This is the imaging sheet that came with the Stamparatus, or not the Stamparatus, the Stamp-A-Majig, which Stampin' Up! Has retired, or is retiring. But I've kept it because it comes in quite handy. If you don't have a Stamp-A-Majig, you can use a window sheet or a transparency that you can cut down and use. You just need something that you can see clear, that you can see through, and it's great if you're able to wipe it off afterwards as well. So I'm going to ink this up with green and stamp it down and just see if I'm okay with the positioning. I'm going to move it down 1 notch and stamp it again and just see if I'm happy with the spacing, and that looks perfect to me. Okay, so I'm good with that, so I can set that aside. I won't need that anymore. And now I'm going to re-ink this, and you'll also notice that I tucked this underneath here because I find, especially if you're working with a smaller image, it's much easier to ink up when this is a level surface rather than when it's going down at a slope like that. Okay, so by having that extra little bit of height on that side, you can get a really nice, it's much easier to ink, and I find I'm less likely to get ink around the edges as well. Okay, so I'm going to ink that up. And then I want this to be the darkest one, so I'm going to ink it up again. I got a little bit of ink on here. And then stamp it again, so then it'll be nice and dark. Okay, so see how evenly that's stamped? So that the Stamparatus is great if, for example, I stamped it once and maybe on one side it didn't ink up very well. I could just easily ink that stamp and stamp it again, and it will be in the perfect spot. So no need to worry about that. Okay, so I inked that up again and stamped it. Now I'm going to give it a huff just to re-moisten it, but not ink it up again. Stamp it down again. I'm going to move my magnet up here. Huff it again. Still not re-inking it because I want it to get gradually lighter and lighter as we go down. Huff it one last time. And then stamp stamp down. So that last one is really, really light, but that's okay. So you can still see it when you look closely. Okay, so let's give this a clean, and then we'll move the Stamparatus out of the way and finish assembling our card. Okay, so all my pieces, I'll give you the measurements here in just a sec. Okay, so my card base is chocolate chip, which is also retiring this year. Where's my bone folder? And it's just a standard size card base, so it measures 5.5 by 8.5, and then scored at 4 1/4. And then I've got a piece of crumb cake cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I've stamped these cute little paw prints going up the card in crumb cake, and I've also sponged around the edges of everything. And I did that ahead of time so that you guys wouldn't have to watch me do that. Okay, so I'm just using my fast fuse, and I'm going to stick that in the center of the card front. Okay, and then I've got a piece of old olive that measures about 1/2 inch, actually it's probably 3/4 of an inch by 5.5, that I'm just going to tuck in behind here. And actually I didn't sponge this. So let's give that just a little bit of sponge in here. Okay, so now we'll add just a little bit of adhesive behind here, and I just want, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch showing. Okay, and then that's going to get mounted to my card base. I'm going to stick that on here, making sure it's straight. Looks pretty good. Okay, and then I've gone ahead and I've cut a stitched shape circle, and this I believe is the 2nd largest size, and then I've cut the corresponding scallop from the layering circles framelets, and I'm just going to, oh, I forgot to do some stamping. I was just going to mount that onto there, but we need to do a bit of stamping. Let's pull in a scrap piece of paper here. Okay, so I'm inking up this little leaf that is also from this No Bones About It stamp set, and I'm going to stamp full on there, give it a huff, and then stamp it again on there so it's a little bit lighter. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my aqua painter and add some ground, because I don't want my dinosaur to look like he's floating. So just make sure that's clean. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Okay, now I can go ahead and get this out of the way and mount this to here. And then this guy, some problems with my fast fuse there. Okay, so I'm going to stick this guy on here, and then I've gone ahead and cut out a dinosaur. So this, I just pre-stamped it, and I've got some mini dimensionals on the back. So I'll just peel off those. Oops. And stick him on. Just like that. And then my leaf, I've stamped and cut out an additional leaf that I'm just going to add it in here. And then for the inside, I just have a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of vanilla that I've gone ahead and sponged in crumb cake. And I will tuck this on the inside like that. And then my card is done. So there we go. Super cute card. This one was done with white, this one was done with vanilla. But a great way to use the Stamparatus. So for 2-step stamping, and then for an ombre look, or even using the hinge step and getting an evenly spaced, perfectly spaced image or greeting on there as well. All right, so thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and if you're not already a subscriber, be sure to hit subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. Thanks for watching.